Hi everyone, I'm Chris. Nice to see you, nice to be here. We're on Gadigal land of the Eora people. This project was conducted across New South Wales and Victoria, but I'll also acknowledge the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation who are the owners of the land where I live and work. So we're here finally, I can't believe it, to launch the Health Talk resource, which is, we started pitching this in, 300-400 years ago. And so to be here, and we've already launched it once. We had a soft launch last year, and I was like, good, okay, no, we're back. It's the project that keeps on giving. So very exciting, very, very exciting. This is only kind of the beginning, really, of the resource being used by people, I guess, but a real milestone for us. So I'm glad to share it with you. So the Health Talk resource was, I think, one of the kind of first really substantial, or one of the early really substantial pieces of Equally Well work that was done, in partnership, central to the Equally Well team. So certainly Equally Well is a key player. It's a partnership with Health Talk Australia, which produce online resources for a variety of different things. Mental health, they've got experience in mental health, but also early menopause, for example. They do resources for carers as well, things like that. So it's a partnership between Equally Well and Health Talk Australia. I was at RMIT when we started, and obviously Equally Well is at Charles Sturt, so it was a partnership between those two universities, and I moved to La Trobe, and so La Trobe joined as well. Very generously funded by Safer Care Victoria, by the New South Wales Mental Health Commission, and by the National Mental Health Commission. So as we'll see now, there is some emerging evidence base for this kind of online resource, but there wasn't then, and they really kind of went, yeah, okay, that sounds great. Let's see what it looks like and see if it works. And so very, very great to have their support. Now, I was going to do what everybody else did and have photos of the team up there, but unfortunately, it's a really good-looking team. I didn't want you to be distracted by not listening to what I was saying, so I won't read the words out, but I won't read the names out, but it was a really great team, really exciting to work, really collaborative with a team of experts on this project, including lived experience experts. I'm going to talk a bit about the co-design in a second. We have an initial publication out of this, which came out of our review. We wanted to see where are the voices, where's the consumer voice in the literature on physical and mental health. Now, for any of you that have delved into that literature, you won't be surprised to know that they're few and far between. There are some there, and we identify a few. There's actually a chunk more. It was quite interesting doing this analysis because we said, okay, we're only going to highlight where people have said that their consumer perspective researchers in the actual paper itself. And so there were people who I know, who I've worked with for years, who I know are consumer perspective researchers, not saying that they're doing this kind of work. It's not explicit in there. So it's quite an interesting perspective. I think we've seen at these kind of conferences, we're seeing a lot more lived experience involvement, but it's just not reflected in the literature. The vast majority of the literature on this topic broadly is by clinicians, and there's no consumer voice whatsoever. So that's the kind of main takeaway from that paper. Now this project, as I said, has taken a long time, feels like. And during that time, what has been a considered acceptable co-design has changed so dramatically that we basically had to completely redo the project. And now, when I use the word co-design, I wouldn't say that what we did was co-design. But if you had told me when we started in, 2015 or 16, that we were going to have that much consumer involvement and have, consumer researchers on the team, and we had a project advisory group which was 50% consumers, and then we had the CLEAVE, the Consumer Lived Experience Advisory Group as well. And I was like, we're definitely going to change that name. And they're like, no, we like it, CLEAVE, that's what we do. And so, if I'd mapped that out in 2016, when we first started thinking about this project, I would have said that's impossibly best practice. And now I look back at it and go, oh, well, come on, Chris, what were you thinking? There's so much more you could have done there. But we did our best with what we could at the time. Here is the timeline. So we didn't get funding. We put this up for a couple of charities initially. We got knocked back. I think we got funding eventually in 2019. And you might remember we had COVID in the middle, so that slowed us down a little bit as well. But here we are, right at the end of this timeline. So that's really exciting for us. We spoke to 32 people around Victoria and New South Wales. 28 are actually in the online resource because people either decided later they didn't want to participate or they said they kind of we wanted to speak to people who are not the normal people that we speak to, and so we spoke to we spoke to people who are pretty practiced at participating in research and in online resources as well. But then we went deeper, and so we had this really great partnership with Maylea where they set us up in their offices, and they would kind of offer to people they were working with, people who have almost no community connection, often very isolated. Certainly they're not on Twitter, participating, saying, yes, I want to participate in this thing. And so we went in a couple of different Nehemiah offices around the country and spoke to people that way. So we got, I think, a really broad and representative range of experiences that is quite hard to do in this kind of research. Good variety of people too, very a kind of diverse group, as is very common in this kind of research. Overrepresented women were more keen to participate. So many different experiences. I mean, I put this up because it's easy to show you, but the incredible variety of people's experiences was absolutely one of the takeaways from this. So we talk a lot about cardiovascular and heart, and obviously in the data they're really key kind of contributors to early mortality. But actually when you speak to people, yeah, maybe that is the thing, but actually, I don't know, the sleep apnea is the thing that they actually really need addressed right now. Like there's a real diversity that isn't, just because it's clinician data and the clinician's like, oh, I'm a heart guy, so I'm going to go on research. Sounds nice, doesn't it, being a heart guy? We should all aspire to be heart guys, but you know what I mean. They're not looking at the complexity. They're kind of pulling out one condition. They're researching from the perspective of a condition that is an important piece of work and does kill people, of course. But that's not reflected in how people told us their stories, and I think that's an important learning for us here at Equally Well. Okay, this is really exciting. I don't know if other people have been following the NEON trial. This is the kind of thing that, when you go overseas and see what people are doing overseas blows me away. They did a randomly controlled trial for online recovery narratives. It's not published yet, so I haven't got a citation. They're currently doing the analysis and writing it up. But the key finding, this is Mike Slade's group, if anyone wants to kind of find out more, you can Google NEON trial, or you can reach out to Mike Slade. I'm sure he'll love that, me just sending everyone to email him. The providing access to online recovery narratives has a measurable, a quantifiable, a cost-benefit, measurable benefit to people, to people who have experienced poor mental health, other than for people that experience psychosis. So that's really interesting. I'd love to find out more about why that is. But for people who don't experience psychosis, it really works. For people that do experience psychosis, the randomised controlled trial suggests actually it's nowhere near as effective. There's a slight increase, a slight improvement. But I was shocked. I've been telling everyone for years, Health Talk's great, fund us, give us money, it's really good, look at this fancy thing, it's so exciting, etc. And then I'm like, wow, I'm right. Here is gold standard evidence that shows that online recovery narratives, like the one we've been slaving away on for all these years, actually have a measurable, demonstrable impact, positive impact on people's health outcomes, social outcomes, a range of different things. So that's really exciting for us to find out. So just got a couple of key quotes that I'm going to read out from some of the participants that I think are really, capture the essence of it. I'm going to show you the video as well, but I think these are worth pulling out. So Elsie says that your story is valid and you should push for the right care. Don't just back down because someone tells you. Like, that someone is devalidating that you're important and that their story is important and it deserves to be listened to. And just because people can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. So we asked people what message they wanted to kind of put out in the world, what advice would they give to other people. And I think that's, we haven't edited this for grammar, but I think it's really, you can feel that sense of being not seen, being made invisible by clinicians. And that's something that came through really clearly. We also heard that there were big issues with communication and relationships. People didn't trust their clinicians, or they changed all the time, and we know that's a massive issue. When people had good clinicians that they liked, they loved them. Like, the bar for a good clinician was seeing the same person twice in 6 months, and they actually got listened to. Like, it was shocking to me how little clinicians had to do to be given to us as an exemplar of excellence and of, this person saved my life while they had a smoothie with me. This kind of very, very simple engagement stuff just was very, very highly valued and not widespread. Big issues with access. We've heard a lot about that at this conference. People misunderstanding the barriers. So clinicians saying to people, well, you need to go and exercise. Well, I haven't got shoes, or it's not safe for me. I mean, these are things we've been hearing time and time again. They're no surprise. Dismissal and discrimination. So diagnostic overshadowing is obviously a key part of this, but just kind of goes through the whole experience. I think one of the interesting things we've been hearing about is that consistently, as we get more data around equally well, that it's not people don't want to. People who use mental health services want to quit smoking at the same rates as other smokers. We heard this morning that diet is, for people who use mental health services, actually not so significantly worse than mainstream. The barriers are in the way that people are interacting with society. And for a lot of people who use mental health services, most of those interactions are with mental health professionals, support workers, etc. We heard a lot about medication impacts. People talked a lot about how important agency was for them and advocacy. So, I mean, perhaps because I've been working in this space for some time now, this all seems very straightforward and obvious to me, but they were really, really profound experiences that people shared with us, and that you can go and have a look at. Unlike most research where I just here's what I reckon, you can go online onto the online resource and hear this for yourself, and I do encourage you to do so. Jessica said, are you ready to advocate for yourself a lot? It's going to be tough, which is sad to say, but it's true. You have to advocate for yourself a lot. And if you can't do that, you need to have people around you who can. And I think that's one of these, we're seeing in more and more of these studies that involve peer navigators or nurse navigators. It's that advocacy role that is so essential to people and so useful to people, so highly valued because the system is so inaccessible. And those advocates kind of are able to overcome those other issues on the previous slide. So the next step for us, I'm going to show you the resource in a second. The next step for us, we are currently working on a consumer resource. Tessa, the project officer, presented on that yesterday. We've got a co-design group. Some of the co-design group members are here. That's going to be a self-advocacy tool. So it's kind of come out of this Health Talk project that people need advocacy, they need support with agency because it's co-design and I have no idea what it's going to look like, but it'll be something that helps people advocate for themselves. So it's a very different kind of resource than some of the other resources we've seen today. It's for consumers, designed by consumers, and then we're working with carers, family supporters and with clinicians to make sure it's appropriate and useful, but it's very much driven by amplifying the consumer voice in these processes. That's me, that's my details. Let's hope we can actually get this working. Here's one I prepared earlier. So this is the online resource. You can access it at healthtalkaustralia.org, and then you have to scroll down a bit to the physical wellbeing and mental health page. This is kind of about the project, but you don't need that because I just told you about it. And then this takes you to this page, which is the landing page. It's not much fun, as we all discovered on Zoom during COVID, watching other people use computers. Sharing screens. So I'm going to show you the introduction and then I encourage you to kind of in your own time go and explore it yourself. It's very much self-directed. It's not like a one long video that you just sit and watch, you click through and you see people's narratives. That's how this works. So this is the landing page. I said I wasn't going to, but you can see we've divided the resources up for service users, for mental health practitioners, or for physical health practitioners, and it's very much self-guided. So you click through, and once it loads, you have a little intro video at the beginning of each one, and then it takes you through to these landing pages where you can hover over and kind of click through and hear about, what health challenges are people facing, or how do people manage their health day to day, what makes a difference in people's experience of the healthcare system. And so you can, for those of you who are working in the space, you can offer this to people as a resource. I mean, it's free, it's a website, right? So if someone is, whether that's a clinician or a student or a consumer that you're working with, then you can provide this and say, hey, you might find this interesting. And people find hearing other people's experiences of what they're feeling really incredibly powerful and validating. To know that it's not you, and you're not the reason that you've been rejected by the GP or by whoever, allows you to go back and try again and advocate and try and get better health, right? That's the central premise of what we're doing here. But I think it's, I use a whole range of health talk resources in my teaching as well, to kind of expose students to some of the things that they might not otherwise see until they get out in practice. So a range of uses there. But that's it. I think I've got time for a couple of questions. Yes? Oh, look how well behaved I am. But it's launched. Hooray!
Thanks, Chris. Open up for questions.
Thanks, Chris. It's fantastic to see this resource come to life. I heard you say, and the speaker yesterday say, about how it wasn't true co-design, and I'm just curious to know, what do you think you would do differently if you were to do this project again to kind of meet that co-design standard?
Yeah, well, I think, for me, it's about where the power lies fundamentally. And because we were working with Health Talk and they have a discrete model, I think that was probably the first hurdle, was that because so much, they have it's Oxford University branded model that they use, and it's very effective and it's tested and et cetera, but it wasn't what all of the lived experience people on our group wanted to happen. And that kind of derailed, and then the Health Talk people were like, well, you're just going to do it yourself then, what do you need us for? And, it kind of created this problematic dynamic, actually, where we had this great approach, this model that is world-renowned, and people didn't want to do it that way. And we weren't ready for that discussion, and we didn't do the power-sharing stuff that needed to happen to allow us to navigate those discussions properly. Yeah, I could, buy me a drink. I've got hours and hours of things I do differently, but I think that's the key thing. We didn't sit down and spend the time allocating power. And so now when I'm setting up other projects, thankfully, people on that team still will work with me, even though we had all these kind of discussions about this. But when we do it now, there's co-leads. So there's a consumer co-lead, and then there's maybe we don't always have an academic co-lead. And so the decision-making process and the power is much more clearly articulated, much more shared. Yeah.
And that's fantastic. It looks terrific. As a lived experience, a person with lived experience and a lived experience advocate, performing that sort of concierge role that you talked about at the point, this would be awesome if it was, well known in the system, and as a part of supporting our, well, look at this before, and then come and talk to me. So are you planning to roll out? Is the rollout through PHNs or through hospital LHDs or whatever?
This is it. It's rolling.
This is the rollout.
It's rolling. Right. Yeah, we're launched.
Right.
Yeah, go fly, little bird, whatever.
So we need to add.
Yeah, this is up. Yeah, it's on, I've done my. This is I'm done. Yeah. So I'm over to you now. This has got to take off. Yeah.
Equally well, we'll try and do some advocacy as well, I think.
Yeah. We are. We're all. It's a constellation model. We're all working together to get these resources out. Yeah. Great. Thanks.
Right. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks so
much
for the launch, and we'll look forward to all that.